Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout.
It's about to go down.
Yes. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Gentlemen and ladies, we got some things to unpack. NFL week 2, college football week 3, and guess what? We got a little bit of boxing for you too. So do me a favor out there, hit your notification bells. We are everywhere that you get your podcast. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things. Do all the good things. Mr. Logical, what's the word?
Listen, man, just had a great weekend of football. Very exciting, a lot of movement, a lot of teams that are not sitting as pretty as we thought.
Like
a lot
the
of
49ers,
my,
what up, Residente?
like my surprise picks for the NCAA college football playoff.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're not hitting right now, but it's early. It's early. You never know.
All right, we'll get into it, but we're going to start it off with the NFL because it might be time to overthrow the kingdom. You know, the Kansas City Chiefs, 0-2 for the first time in Patrick Mahomes' career. You know, this is the first time, going back to the Super Bowl, of course, that Patrick Mahomes has ever lost 3 consecutive games in his career. Mr. Logical, we throwing out the Chiefs with the bathwater?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's I think we just need to relax. We got to stay calm and just kind of realize that you played 2 good teams. They gave up 27 points, and they gave up 20 points. Kelsey doesn't let the ball go off his hands. They're in the lead. So it's like little things like that. They need to be a little bit more dynamic on offense, figure out a way to get Pacheco and Hunt, like some open space. I'm not sure what the offensive line situation is. I don't know if maybe they need to move some guards around, maybe try a guy at center and move him to guard because they were getting a lot of push up front. The guy at number 74 on outside, I keep forgetting his name. He just seems like every week
is that
he gets targeted. Jawan Taylor, yeah. It just feels like he's like leaning a little more. It's like he's trying to overcompensate for how bad he's been playing. Mahomes is doing his thing, like he's trying, but even then he missed that one throw to Thornton. He ended up getting him a couple plays later, but he missed that one throw. So I think they'll be all right. They're down 2 weapons. I mean, granted, playing mental fantasy football, I don't know how happy Tyreek is in Miami. I don't know if there's a deal to be made there to make that reunion. I think each team might be desperate enough to get on the phone and see what's up.
Yeah.
But yeah, they need some kind of offensive spark, whether they just get a big game next week against the Giants and that kind of gets them back in their groove and they start to figure out, okay, these are the plays that'll work and they can kind of carry that forward. But if they get in a shootout with the Giants the way Dallas did, that can be tough because I don't know if they have the horses to keep up.
So I'm going to just start this off by acting like a 5-year-old. So look, Kansas City is very troublesome right now. And of course, going back to the preseason, I didn't pick them to win the AFC West.
Correct.
But I'll go backwards here. So they got the Giants coming up this weekend, which means they got some Abdul Carter coming at them, which means they got some Thibodeau coming at them, which means they got some Brian Burns coming at them. and they just don't have the ability to stop anybody. But on the other side even, when you look at Russell Wilson, I know I called him the cab driver. He came out here the other day and, he did the moon ball and everything was looking great against a team that in the preseason, this year's version of the Bengals defense. So I'm not sold on the Giants, but this is the thing. Kansas City can't get any pressure with their defensive line. The same way that Residente just said that
looks like we're having a little bit of technical difficulty. Mike will get back soon. But
look at it
I get what he was
saying. Looks like we got some technical difficulties going. But but Chris Jones is out there by himself. And there were times against Philadelphia the other day where if Kansas City just could have had an extra half second of pressure, it would have changed the whole different game. Now, we were talking offline about the Ravens and the Browns and how sometimes you could look. So if you look at the game, if you look at the score of Kansas City and Philadelphia, it looks like you had a hard-fought battle. But you didn't.
I think it was. I think it was more hard fought than I think it was a struggle on each end. Well, the thing that Philly does, Philly just grinds you out with holding the ball, running the ball, keeping it in play. But let's keep it real. Like Philly is a good team, but the past couple of weeks they haven't really been airing it out. You got 27 points against Dallas, a team that just gave up 37 and some miraculous moon balls, like 3 in a row to Russell Wilson. Granted, they corrected themselves. They got the pick on the last one. I don't know what he was looking at then, but Philly hasn't thrown the ball well. Saquon hasn't really gotten loose. I think he averaged like 4 yards a carry. I think he had like 22 carries, 88 yards. I'm not sure. They're clicking on all cylinders, and they have more weapons. They should be doing a little bit better. I like the trash talk. I like it because it's like you can tell he cares. If he was out there like, hey, man, y'all got us today, y'all be a little upset. But with that being said, I don't think Kansas City's done because it's just they were on a streak that was kind of teetering with a little bit of disaster mixing anyway. They were like 17-2 in one-score games like the last couple of years. That's not sustainable. So this year they're 0-2. But they lost to Los Angeles, who you think is going to be the AFC West division winner. So that's a quality team. And then they played Philadelphia tough, and Philadelphia has all their weapons. Their defense might not still be working on gelling, but Kansas City doesn't have the weapons to compete as of right now. If they figure out something with this guy Thornton, because he seemed to get loose a couple of times in a crucial moment on Philly where it was like you knew he was the deep threat. He was the only deep threat on the field, and he got loose twice in the same drive. It shows like that's something that Andy Reid can work with and figure out. If you get a good game against the Giants, you get 28, 31 points on the board, get a good win. I think you follow up with the Ravens, who you might have their number psychologically, and you still have that defense. Yeah, you want to be able to get home with your front four, the way Philly did in the Super Bowl. But if you have to send a blitz, as long as the blitz is effective, sometimes like we're going to talk about the Falcons later, and I'm always harping on them about not having a guy like Chris Jones in the middle, a big body guy. But the blitzes they were sending at McCarthy were getting there and they're effective. The problem comes is like if you don't get there with the blitz, I think the Giants' O-line is gonna let up a few of those. I think Baltimore's O-line is gonna be good, but Lamar's gonna try to extend plays. All of those aren't like victory plays. So Jacksonville, I'm not sure what we have there. You got Trevor Lawrence waving off the coach, and Detroit got their swag back against Chicago, but you never know. Chicago might be one of these teams that's like way worse off than we thought, because Minnesota made them look like they had Minnesota looking like they were like just dominant squad, and then Atlanta, held them to 6 points. So,
well, see, like I'm not going to leave Kansas City for dead per se, but there are things that I'm concerned about. Like in this game against Philly, you brought up Hunt and Pacheco. They combined 18 rushes for 53 yards. Patrick Mahomes was the leading rusher for the second week in a row. And I know that he's good at improvisation and he makes things happen, but he's running way too much, for my liking, number one. You know what I mean? Number two, he's had success doing all this running, and he keeps trying to truck people all of a sudden after.
He had to truck Makuba on that one. He had to get the
I
first
know.
down on
Ever
third
since
down.
he trucked Mustafa last year, you know what I mean, and put him in his 49er place, he's just been thinking that he's Cam Newton all of a sudden. So I hope there's not an injury waiting, but there could be. But even with all that being said, Rasheed Rice isn't coming back for at least another 4 games. Xavier Worthy's already banged up. So to your point about Thornton, when you look at the rest of that receiver room, your Jujus and your Hollywoods and, Jalen Royals hasn't necessarily been super involved just yet. I think that what I got used to with Kansas City was that they would have these DBs come out of the blue, right? You had Flowers, then Snead came on the scene, McDuffie stepped up. I don't think they have that corner on their roster right now to join McDuffie and taking that next step. So they've been fortunate that Philly decides not to throw the ball. And against the Chargers, they just decided to give Justin Herbert whatever he wanted. So
that zone was wide open. Ladd McConkey was running wild.
So the other thing that helps them is their division, right? Because I picked the Chargers to win the division. But the Raiders are still trying to figure out an identity. Denver, like as much as I was high on their defense, it's not looking so great right now. And Bo Nix is looking terrible.
Who said that? Well, who said that was going to be the case?
I think you said that.
I said that, yeah. It's not my disdain for Sean Payton that made me say that.
Bo Nix looks right now about what I expected him to look like when he was a rookie. But this is year 2, so I don't know if it's just sophomore slump. But I just don't think that Bo Nix is a very accurate quarterback. He thrives off of broken plays, being able to kind of play ground a little bit. A lesser degree of Mahomes, because Mahomes does it with precision. Bo Nix does it with how the hell did that work? You know what I mean? So as I look at it, like I said, going forward, we talked about it, that game against Detroit is going to be big, Sunday Night Football. But then you got a little 2-week reprieve there because we'll have to see how injured Jaden Daniels is. But then you go to Buffalo and Denver back-to-back. And if certain things don't improve, that might be the season in those 2 games right there.
Yeah, but I have a feeling they're going to run off 4 or 5 games in a row. Because, like I said, defense travels. They can make their adjustments. They just need – the run game only got 18 rushes because they couldn't convert third down. So some of these shorter intermediate routes, like I think Hollywood Brown had a route, and he ended up getting tackled by Makuba. He came out, and the route was for him to run a drag beyond the first down, beyond the line of gain. He got bumped a little bit at the line of scrimmage and didn't redirect himself upfield as he was going down the line. He just stayed straight. So Mahomes hit him, thinking, okay, cool. He's in space, and then he couldn't make a guy miss, and they had to punt. So it's like little things like that. If he's upfield a yard and a half, that drive continues, and then maybe Hunt or Pacheco gets a couple more runs on that drive. They just haven't been able to build any drives. That's why Mahomes is running on third downs, because he's like, if we can get a drive going, then we can get to this play. We can get to this Kelsey and Gray on the same side, and they double Kelsey, and I can get Gray open in the corner. But they can't get sustainable drives. I believe in the second half, I saw the graphic. They had a drive where they turned over on downs, a 3-play drive, then the 14-play drive where they had the interception in the end zone, and then another three and out. And then Philly got the ball back, marching down that up 10, and they got the ball back to make it 21-17. If any one of those drives get to 8 or 9 plays, it's a completely different game.
If so, you know what I mean? So now that we saw this, go with. So now that we saw this in execution, real quick, I don't think we really got into this too much during the offseason, but what are your thoughts on the tush push now?
I don't like it for Philly because the Philly linemen say they don't like it. Jason Kelsey said for 2 years he didn't like it. He's like, I don't like it the most because I'm literally the one at the bottom. He's like, because I got to snap the ball, get low, and then everyone's trying to get to Jalen. So it's like, I'm literally under 6 or 7 people. And even Jordan Mailata was like, yeah, I like it. But like the 5th time zooming on my face after we run it, you can tell it's like exhausting. And I don't think it's not more effective than just giving the ball to Saquon on any kind of standard run play behind your line. Like if you had a situation where you had a young running back that wanted to bounce everything, he didn't know how to, get that 1 yard and just keep the drive going. You have a quarterback that can run. You have a running back that can run. You have, big tight ends. Like you have weapons.
Put AJ Brown in the backfield.
I mean, like you have so many weapons that converting a 4th and 1 through the air is not a problem. Whereas like Kansas City, they got to get like creative. They got to run a tight end. He got to act like he gonna take the snap, and then he got to sprint reverse out. Yeah, they got to fake a reverse, and then Mahomes got to do a handstand. They got to do all kinds of shit because it's like they don't have the complete personnel package to do it, so they have to scheme for that 3 feet. Philly, you can they can line up in any formation they run normally. They could go 5 wide and just quarterback draw a 5 wide quick screen to Saquon and get that yard. Like, so that's why I don't like the tush push there, because they do it on like 3rd and 1, they do it on 2nd and 1. I don't know. I just think like Sirianni, like I told you a couple years ago, I feel like sometimes his ego is like, it's like on full display. Is like, I'm the owner of this store, and I'm gonna ride all the bikes around the store, and like I'm gonna just do whatever I want because I own the store. Like, you don't need to do that. Like you don't need to do that.
All right, so then over in Southwest Ohio, there's a cat that is not as feral as we know them to be. The Bengals, Joe Burrow, out until December. They ain't gonna be. Well, they'll probably win this weekend just because they're playing Minnesota and JJ McCarthy's out as well. Not that, I guess he was the difference maker, but he's out. And we're going back to Carson Wentz.
6 teams in 6 years. First quarterback to start for 6 different teams in 6 years.
So what are your thoughts on the Bengals and where they stand in the AFC with their quarterback being injured?
I think they will be better than we believe because their weapons on the outside can elevate a quarterback's play. Like I think they can scheme open Jamar Chase enough to where Jake Browning, who's played a lot of games, a lot of backup games,
4-3 as a starter,
spent a lot of time there, with quarterback out of Washington. So I think he's, I don't use the word adequate because I want to be dismissive of his talent, but I think he's talented enough to get the ball to those guys. Because you have, if one of those guys was down on a hamstring, and like, then I'm like, okay, this is a problem. But as long as you can get these matchups, however you get them, you get 2 guys over here, you get the 1-on-1 over here. Like, listen, just throw it to T. Higgins or throw it to Jamar Chase. We can move the ball still. I think they'll be fine.
I think the Bengals are going to be 3-0 after this weekend, and I think they're going to be 3-3 before we can blink.
So you got them taking down Minnesota because they're starting Carson Wentz.
Yeah, they're going to go to Mile High and
Denver on Monday Night Football.
Then Detroit is going to be able to score with them. If they had Burrow, Detroit would be able to score with them.
Green Bay's going to terrorize Jake Browning.
So this is the thing, right? And I hope the Bengals don't do that thing that the Broncos did when they had Tim Tebow. Because, Kyle Orton was out here putting up 27 points, putting up 31 points, and the defense had no pulse. They put Tim Tebow in the game, and I guess the defense was like, hey, we really got to step up with this guy at quarterback.
And then they held people to 10
points. They held people to 7 points. So are the Bengals capable of Burrow being out and being able to say, you know what? The days of giving up 20 points are over.
maybe the backup won't try to. Joe Burrow, C.J. Stroud, Mahomes, a lot of these, Herbert, a lot of these guys, I believe they know the game plan so well. They believe in their arm talent. They might go to one read and say, I think this is about to come open, and maybe look that one off and hold it maybe a half second longer because they know this crosser is going to be open if I hold it for another half second because this linebacker's not looking. I don't think Jake Browning is going to do that. I think he's going to be like, Jamar, screen. Like, I'm getting this ball out of here because I don't know if you have another backup, and the offensive line has issues. So I think I want to say he's going to play smarter. I think he's just going to be playing like, I can't afford to, like, take hits because we're already down a quarterback until December. And you got to think about it's also his opportunity. His opportunity to either get paid by the Bengals as get that nice backup check, by 18 to 20 million. I think there's some backups are getting like the upper echelon guys, or maybe he's auditioning for another team. But this is opportunity to make plays.
Talking about
I just feel
backups, people been saying all day that Cincinnati might be calling your squad
and try to get Kirk the Jerk.
Yeah, Kirk O'Bangs.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to send some valuable our way, we could do that. What the power went out. So yeah, if they want to send some valuable away, but I would ride with Jake Browning for now. He knows the system. What you're gonna get from him. He's already. I mean, he led this comeback. Granted, Jacksonville, poor play call.
Yeah,
at the goal line.
Which,
Brian Thomas looking kind of nervous.
Yeah, our guy Black Adam. He likes to refer to it as NFLSU and wide receiver U. I was trying to figure out why Brian Thomas was out here acting like a Mississippi State wide receiver.
Yo, we saw that little video clip. Granted, you put this stuff together, it could be misleading. But those passes, a couple of them look like hospital balls, and I think he picked self-preservation over reception a couple of times.
The one in the middle of the field, around midfield or so, when Cincinnati was in the zone, they were definitely waiting.
And the one in the end zone.
But the fourth down,
then the one
that put the game away.
He did the same thing. He did this because he knew he was going to get hit. But I don't think he gets the first down there anyway. I think the linebacker was already on it. Maybe he fights for it. Maybe the offensive line pushes him over, but I don't think he's getting the fourth down. I don't think they're converting on that fourth down.
I got to ask, right? Was going for that fourth down the right decision?
Nah, because it was 4th and 5. Just because it was 4th and 5. Go up 6 and force the backup quarterback to have to get a touchdown.
And not just the backup quarterback that had already thrown 3 interceptions.
Yeah, so like get that guy back on the field. Your defense is like, listen, we got to protect the end zone. So you just play to protect the end zone. Granted, it was like 3.5 minutes left, but they know, like, listen, if we keep these guys out of the end zone, we're good to go. But once they start to move in and then they got that pass interference call I didn't like. I thought it was a little bogus. I just think the refs sometimes, like, listen, if it's back and forth, all's fair in love and war, don't call that. But I think Travis did a good job getting his hand on the ball. But yeah, like going up 6 in that moment, I think is bigger than trying to just get the 5 yards.
Yeah, and me, for me, it's all situational. You know what I mean? Maybe I feel a little differently if Burrow was out there still, but Browning had already thrown 3 interceptions. So there was no real reason for you to sit back and say, hey, you know what? This guy is going to carve us up and down the field. So, take the points and then let him
I'm not sure. Did they call a run play? Did they call a run play on 3rd down? I believe they did.
I believe they did.
Okay.
And so Browning over his career, it's the oddest thing, 69.8% completion percentage. Awesome. 14 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. So he'll give you the ball if you want.
Yeah, he'll give you an opportunity.
He'll give you the opportunity. So, but that's that. But as we were talking about that, I was thinking about Travis Hunter as well, and I think that, we get into that zone where everybody isn't Justin Jefferson. Everybody isn't, Jamar Chase. But I expected more than 9 catches for 55 yards over 2 games. I thought at the very least they would try to get him more involved in like the gadget stuff, just to get the ball in his hands, get him in space. But maybe that's coming later.
We talk about that every week, and it's like you've had this guy on your team since April. You should already have a handful of plays that this guy can do. Like I said, I reference my kids' football team all the time. The first time my son played was 2016. They were doing the sprints, and I saw this kid, and he probably was one of the fastest kids I've ever seen in my entire life. And I'm thinking, I'm not a coach, but I think a direct snap to that kid a couple of times a game is probably an effective play. Like, don't even worry about the handoff. Just get the quarterback out of there, get a couple extra tight ends, and let this 8-9-year-old. He was running like a track star. It was crazy how fast he was. You have that talent. Just all right. I have my game plan, but you have a select set of skills that I want to employ and deploy on the team this way. Make it happen. That's coaching. That's like, because not like people are scheming to take away Travis Hunter. No height and weight. Nah, short and fast. That's the descriptors for the day. Short and fast. He was under 85. It was the 85-pound team. He was probably about 67 pounds, 60 to 75 pounds, somewhere in that range. My son was about 77.
So that's what I was looking at with Jacksonville, is being a little bit more creative. They've been running the ball pretty effectively. And hey, my guy, National Tootin with the touchdown. I told you Virginia Tech is in the building, besides their actual building, but Yeah. So anyway, what else stood out to you about the week that was, Mr. Logical?
NFL week 2. I got a shout out to the squad. I liked what Atlanta did on Sunday night. I wish they would have put the ball in the red zone. I'm still curious why there's not a lot of jump ball fade routes kind of built into our offense, with considering you got 2 guys 6'5", one of them is about 220, one's about 245. There's your height and weight range. So I just don't know why in the red zone they don't have that kind of built in, that expectation that, hey, we're going to throw one jump ball to one of you. So whoever has the more favorable matchup, run to the back pylon. Michael, throw it to the back pylon. Let's see what make it happen. The defense was confusing McCarthy, so they were blitzing very well. James Pierce, our first-round draft pick, I think he got a couple of sacks. I believe Jalen Walker got in there for 1 or 2. So it was all around good game. Like I said, just the offensive play calling in the red zone. I would turn a couple of those into touchdowns. The game looks completely different. Instead of having, I think he kicked what's the kicker? He kicked 5 field goals.
Yeah, Romo.
Got rid of Koo. So I like the swift decision there. It sucks that this man lost his job. Like I said, I'm all about trying to.
So is this dude Tony's clutch cousin?
I don't know what's going on, but it was a couple of kicks that were close. The 39 for a kicker is weird. It's like a weird number to wear, but like I said, I like what they did.
I'm upset that you did all that talking about the Falcons and you didn't say the name that I needed you to say.
Ooh, Tyler Jr.?
No, all off season I've been talking about Billy Bowman from Oklahoma. I told you about him.
When you got the pick, you shot me a text. He's like,
that's my guy.
They confuse the hell out of old JJ there. But I mean, he's a winner, he's a gamer. Kind of the opposite. I know people have been piling on Caleb. I don't want to pile on him.
I do.
Well, I'll let you do that. I'm gonna pile on the Jets for having Justin Fields out there 3 for 9 in the fourth quarter.
No, I'm not gonna.
You didn't get 9 passes off.
I'm just gonna say that he's a walking blooper. Back when we used to watch NFL films back in the day, and you would see the damnedest things. That's Caleb Williams. Roma Dunze got involved, 2 touchdowns. Luther Burden a catch for 5 yards. But I think this game was Detroit. Something's up. Like, and this is just me, like, just kind of, I guess, putting my spin on it and reading between the lines.
Yeah.
But I remember as a Kentucky fan, Rick Pitino left, went to the NBA, came back, and he decided out of all the places to go, he decided to go to Louisville. I think there's something there with Ben Johnson. Like, you decided to go in the division?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, if you're Ben Johnson, what do you want to do? You want to go down there with Trevor Lawrence and his $260 million price tag and it's kind of handcuffing your team as far as building talent? Or you want to try the second-year guy that's not handcuffing you, hamstringing your team for money.
You don't want to scrape mascara off the ball every other play.
The problem that Chicago's going to run into is we talked about Mahomes running. We talked about Burrow kind of, I don't know, something goofy. The problem with Caleb is that I don't know how I don't think he runs into the to like in the battle. I don't think he's storming Omaha Beach leading his troops. I don't feel he has that in him, and I think the team feels that as well because we like I said, we talk about this ad nauseum, but when he goes back to his college days and it's not going well and he's throwing the fits, it's like it's not going to go well a lot considering you're in an organization that has habitually fired coaches, drafted quarterbacks, made bad moves, bad trades. You're in an organization that's still trying to figure things out, even after probably the 100 years they've been in the league. It's going to be growing pains. I don't think he can handle the fact that this is the situation that he's in. And I don't believe that the players believe he can handle it either. Because it's never going to be all good. He's not going to go out there next week against who they got next week. I'm not sure, but whoever they have next week, he's not going to go out there and go. Yeah, he's not going to go out there and go 31 for 35, 345 yards, 3 touchdowns, and scramble for a couple. It's just that's not how your game's going to go. There's going to be games where you go 19 for 27, but you got to scramble to get a first down. Like for instance, he just got his first career rushing touchdown. I'm like, you played all last season. You never run the red zone like, oh, this play is breaking down. I can't get this throw off. Let me tuck it and run.
Well, no, because he was getting sacked.
That's what I'm saying. It's like you got to be a gamer and a playmaker and realize like, okay, my team needs me to make a play here, not just make a throw here. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like Jalen Hurts, he gets all those runs in the line, but the first week against Dallas, he had 2 rushing touchdowns, probably about 9 and 12 yards. But it was like, you know what? I'm up. It's not there. Let me go. There's man-to-man coverage. Everyone's heads turned. Let me go. I'm like, you mean to tell me he didn't get one opportunity like last year? Michael Penix, I think, already has 1 or 2 rushing touchdowns. Well, so it's like he's not a gamer, and I think that's gonna mess it up for the team, and they're gonna be picking another quarterback pretty soon.
I'm going to start my tracker here. Caleb Williams is officially 3,583 yards away from becoming the Chicago Bears' first 4,000-yard passer in a season. So this is the new Iowa tracker. Remember the race to 325. So what stood out to me this Sunday is the Steelers defense still ain't get better. And
it's a lot of points you're giving up.
And I remember you sent me that video or you sent that message, and I didn't know what the hell you was talking about.
Yeah.
Until I look at my guy, Caleb Johnson, let the ball go by, and Seattle's got a touchdown on the kickoff.
Also, did he recover that ball in the end zone? I don't know if they reviewed that or not, because it looked like he ran on it. Like, the ball was just sitting there.
Yeah. It's a live ball at that point.
It's a live ball. Yeah. So all the Seattle players could have just slowed down and picked the ball up. But the guy who came sliding in, I didn't see a replay of it, but he slid, and then when he rolled over, he was putting the ball back into play like he didn't fully grab it. Unless they're saying just that initial slide, he had enough of possession of it. It didn't seem like it to me.
I have to go back and look at that.
If you look at the play, like as soon as because he's sprinting, he's thinking somebody from Pittsburgh is going to come get the ball. No, they were already on the sideline.
Right.
So everyone, all 11 dudes were just jogging to the sideline. So he came in, he slid, and he rolled out of bounds. So that's a crazy play. I think Aaron Rodgers is another Caleb Williams kind of case where it's like, I'm not sure how much you're gonna do to be a gamer.
Well,
Like
Aaron Rodgers
Baker
has
last night on
tunnel
4th
vision.
and 10, running out there and getting 15 yards. I'm not seeing that from Aaron. Granted, Aaron's 40,
He has
but
tunnel vision right now. Like he's looking at DK, and then there's somebody open underneath, and he's just going, "Come on, DK, make your move. Come on, DK, make your move. Oh, DK ain't make his move yet. I guess I'll throw it to this tight end over here." Like like he doesn't want to look any direction but DK's direction.
And the offensive coordinator he has is not going to help the creativity aspect of it. You heard it here first. That's not a marriage.
I was thinking about that earlier. I was like, maybe he would be better off being a college coach.
Like a Division II college coach, like a developmental,
okay.
like not.
I wasn't even trying to do that.
I'm not trying to be a dick, but like his play calling is very predictable. The formations was so predictable, and it was like when he was with Atlanta for those 3 years, they had a formation it was like a pistol formation. He would send like the wide receiver in motion, and then have him like do this big loop back around behind the running back and the quarterback out of the pistol, but the ball never went to that guy. Like you could watch every single game. Like he would run and he would do the big loop and he would go in motion and the ball, it never was like a fake to the running back and throw it out there to him. It was never like a fake to the running back and a wheel route off that action. It just was literally window dressing and nobody moved because it's like they're not throwing this route.
I know everybody talking about Bronny and Shador. That's the Nepo baby, but then
money.
But then I was watching this game and I was like, Tua did it. Like Tyreek got over 100 yards. The Dolphins with a game-winning. Nope, penalty. Bring it on back. Antonio Gibson with the kickoff return is the hero of the game. So the Patriots are 1-1. They got Pittsburgh this week, so I'm definitely interested in that game. Miami, as they said in Scarface, poor besito. When Josh Daniels gets a hold of you, he's going to stick your head up your ass faster than the rest.
Yeah.
So then Giants and Cowboys in the game that everybody is going to swear was a great game because there was a lot of points scored, and there wasn't a great game because a lot of points were scored.
Well, that's because you like 6-3 rained out slobber knuckle.
I just like teams to look like they tried. Like you can score 40 points.
I like
40.
I like 41 points
in the end zone.
I like 41 points in the fourth quarter, and I like a 64-yard field goal to push it to overtime. I thought it was all crazy. Because sometimes you need a game like that. Every game isn't gonna be just this coach matchup, defensive head coach, offensive genius coach, young quarterback. Like you're not gonna get all these storylines. Sometimes you just got to go out there and rivalry season and just let it fly. And I don't know what Russell was looking at, but when he was letting those balls go, I was like, man, is he trying to hit the monitor? And then when it was falling in the hands, because what's the guy? The guy from Kentucky caught one. I saw Neighbors
Robinson.
And then when Neighbors caught the other one, I have a couple of cousins that are Giants fan. Facebook was going crazy. I just was watching because I was watching the Jets Bills game at first. I just had that on the TV, and I was watching. It's like, and I saw Justin Fields' stats, and then he got the concussion, and Tyrod Taylor came in. I was like, let me see what this Dallas Giants game is talking about. I thought it was going to be kind of on par with the Buffalo Jets game.
Right.
Then I turned into it. I'm looking at it and looking at the score. I'm like, oh shit, it's 23-20 Giants. Okay, let me set up. And then that's when the scoring started. And I was like,
it was like straight up pinball.
I just wish Russ didn't throw that kind of interception because it's what have you done for me lately? And before that, he had 450 yards passing. So before that last throw in the air, when the ball was snapped, everyone was looking at his stats on the sideline. Something crazy. I want to get it right before. So his stats on the sideline before he threw that pass, was 29 for 40, 450 yards and 3 touchdowns. Before that ball left his hand, everybody's looking at that as like, this is an outstanding game. He throws the ball, look up, and they just rip the paper up, headphones slammed, and it's like, do you start Jackson Dart all over again? So,
how nuts is it that Dallas was like, hey, you know what? We're at midfield. Let's get like another yard.
When they ran the draw play?
Yeah. Let's get another yard. Like Aubrey's got it.
Yeah. The thing about it, they ran the draw play. I think the clock stopped with like 5 seconds. I was like, run another one. They're like, nah, we're kicking it from 6. I'm like, they had another timeout.
They're like, nah, we got it.
Because if you were the Giants was smart, they probably would have held him up. So he couldn't get down. But
the Giants aren't smart if you watch how they were lined up. You know what I mean? People been calling for Bone to get fired after that game, and it made me think of, as the day went on, I saw Indy with their 60-yard field goal in the bailout of all bailouts. Oh, do I hate the leverage call. Oh, do I hate it.
It's in there, player safety, even though they know they argue the tush push, but it's in there for player safety. You can't do it. It was called, but like I told Lethal in the group,
I decided the playoffs.
I was like, hey, well, don't get it there. Don't blow your possession. We have opportunity. Don't put it in the ref's hands. I get it. The refs will make bad calls and potentially ruin games. That happens. It sucks. The globe is still spinning around the sun. We're good. You just deal with it. But like Lethal was like, oh, y'all ain't believing us. I was like, calm down. You were an uncalled penalty away from being 1-1, like half the league. So like, let's be easy. And I get it. I don't want to panic for any of these
around
teams.
The earth.
Try to say, oh, get you found around the dirt. 6 showcases found around your shirt. Okay, let me get up before we get copyright infringement. But yeah, like I said, I believe there's some teams that the first 2 weeks, I believe, is going to be indicative of how their season is going to go. I think New Orleans is one of those teams. Like Carolina's probably going to be one of those teams.
Tread lightly.
Even some of the 1-1 teams, I think Dallas is going to have a back and forth. If their defense is giving up 37 points, and the thing about it, they gave up the same bomb, like the same route twice in less than 2 minutes. So it was like, it's not like it happened in the first and then it happened on like a blown coverage in the third. It was like, this happened like 8 real minutes ago. Like, it just happened. The length of 2 songs, and they right. ran this play on you twice, and you guys blew it both times. So that's I think that's going to be a lot of back and forth. I think Green Bay is going to look the way they look all year long. I think Chicago is going to struggle.
You know who I hope does not look the way that they look all year long? Marvin Harrison Jr., a.k.a. Harvin Harrison Jr., because Ted McMillan already looks better than him. I was watching Harvin the other day, and as big as he is, like when you look at him, you know what I'm saying, he looks like he'll literally put a couch on his back and run 6 miles without stopping.
Yeah.
But he does not like to be jammed. He does not like confrontation. And you know what, I'm like, hey, are they going to have to move his big ass to the slot just to kind of get him some freedom? Because, like, I just don't see – when he got drafted, I was like, okay, Kyler Murray's got the weapon that he needs to accomplish the mission that the Cardinals are on.
Yes.
When I watch him play now, like, forget last season, watching him these first 2 weeks of this season, I was like, maybe I was wrong about Kyler. I wouldn't throw your ass the ball either.
Yo, like, I've talked about this. I think Jadeveon Clowney was one of the conversations me and my dad were having back in the day before he got drafted. And it might just be some people are just built to play football. And they just keep playing it. Just because if you are in high school and you are a 6'2", 6'1", 6'2" freshman or sophomore, the football coaches or the basketball coaches are going to be on you like recruiters. Like, yo, You need to come out. And then you just happen to play. And you like playing, and it's just what you do. This could be one of those cases where it's like, listen, I just like playing football, and it's not like he might not be that good at the position. You might just like be just bigger than everybody else, because there's no way you should be leaving games 2 catches, 27 yards. Like, you should be getting like, yo, let me get this drag route. Let me get this screen route. Yo, I got a, whatever, milk check. I got a white safety over top. Whatever it is you have, you need to be calling for the ball and trying to get open. I'm pretty sure if you call Larry Fitzgerald could mentor him. Anquan Boldin, a former Cardinal great, somebody can get his pops. Like, somebody should be able to get him in a position where he's out here putting up, like Emeka Egbuka, he's trying to catch everything, every route he's running. I think he was injured in the game last night, but he's trying to get everything. I get that someone has to skill on the ball, but you also got to go to the huddle like, listen, man, give me this route. Give me this jump ball. I'm going to beat this guy off the line. Get me the ball. The quarterback is kind of temperamental, and he did literally take a picture with a pit bull wearing a Michael Vick jersey. So you got to understand his brain doesn't operate. Yeah, Kyler Murray. Take a picture with a pit bull wearing a Michael Vick jersey.
I saw that. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how
understand how that works.
I'm trying to figure out how Bryce Young's brain worked, because he got his career high in yards yesterday, but I don't even think I saw him until the fourth quarter. I didn't even realize he was there until the fourth quarter. Like, he's the garbage time king. And every time people fall for it and it's like, oh, is he taking the leap now? Is he taking that step forward now? No, they're just behind and he gotta throw the ball. That's what's happening. And then, of course, Monday Night Football last night, Baker Mayfield, like, oh, what can you say about Baker Mayfield other than the Texans need to learn how to tackle? They get pressure off the blitz. They got good corners back there, but for whatever reason, they cannot tackle. And I don't know how many times, and I know I'm going to sound like a 10-year-old NFL fan, but stop letting these teams march down the field and saying, we're going to stop them that last 10 yards.
Yeah, I was because I had a couple of parlays kind of laid on this game, and I was kind of hoping they panned out. They didn't. I had some anytime touchdowns. I got like 3 or 4 out of 5 or something like that. But then I was like, well, go ahead, Texas, go ahead and win it. So, the division's tied. I mean, they'd have the tiebreaker for the head-to-head matchup, but, get them 1-1. And the creative player, Danielle Hunter, it's like the guy was unblockable. They were just getting tired. They had to come off the field a couple of times.
And that was another game where a 4th down call, a few possessions earlier, where the Texans, missed the 4th down. Could have got the 3 points there.
The 2-point conversion play once again, awful. No protection up the middle. So it's like you have to recognize
the Texans might win 6 games.
I think they're tough enough defensively. I like their linebackers. I think a lot of their linebackers feel like hybrid safety players. So I think they fly around like that guy was like Tuolufo or something like that.
Yeah.
I like the way they fly around. They tackle. They're an aggressive team. It's just something about that interior line they just can't figure out, because CJ Stroud you shouldn't give up that much pressure on a pass play on a 2-point conversion. Like, you shouldn't have both A gaps just completely open up. I'm like, yo, like, it's a 2-yard play. Like, he should be able to look to 2 reads on a 2-yard play.
I'm gonna need these
before
teams
he's
to
getting
pay attention
swarmed
to
by
the New York
Buccaneers.
Jets, because I saw Justin Fields score on a 3-yard quarterback sneak. So I'm just saying, it's out there.
Yeah, it looked tough.
And then the Chargers, man, like.
Chargers looked all right. They only scored 20, and Geno gave them the ball.
No, they only scored
times.
20, but that defense looked like it's straight out of a horror movie, man. They were all over the place. Like, you could not find any open space on that field. And, of course, Khalil Mack.
Yeah, I didn't see the injury. I was out. I saw the tape on his arm, but I saw still a picture of it. It looked pretty bad. Yeah. But on NFL players, man, he'll get some ibuprofen, some pins in a strap, and they'll put one of those Ray Lewis armbands on him.
The Chargers are exactly where you want to be, though. They, and I'm not saying it's just because I picked them to win the division, but I'm just saying it because I picked them to win the division. They beat Kansas City last week. They beat the Raiders last night. They got Denver this week. So in a quick hurry, they could end up 3-0 in this division.
That's set up for them very well. The defense, the commentators was talking about if they were running a lot of too high safety, and that's what Tampa Bay ran against Mahomes in the Super Bowl, and they were like, you guys got to be able to run. You got to be able to run the ball underneath or get, routes underneath. And I just felt like they couldn't get the right play calls to beat it. It's like, I felt like Geno was, they wanted the big play, but it's like everywhere you went, they had a double post route, and it was Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers, and the safety was playing both of them in between because they ran the route so close that when the ball went to Jacoby Myers, he just casually backed off and just deflected the ball because they were trying to run these deep shots into the zone. It's like, run somebody underneath. Like, if you're gonna run this double post, run like a crosser underneath. That way somebody's open or something in the flat. You have Genty. Genty had great balance last night. He was bouncing off of tackles, but they were giving him the ball in obvious run situations. Like, they passed on first down. Right. It's 2nd and 10. The pass wasn't working. Yeah, so we know you're gonna hand the ball off to him. And then he had one run. I think he ran like 15 to 20 yards sideways, but he still ended up getting like 4 or 5 yards. He made like 3 or 4 people miss, but they all knew. Like, Derwin James was at the line of scrimmage. Like, I know you're running this ball. You're not going to throw it 2 times in a row because we've been shutting your pass down all day.
Yeah, so in his 2 games, he has 81 total rushing yards on 2.7 yards per carry. And, my guy Omarion Hampton ain't much better, 72 yards on 3.1. So, we got to get those lines loosened up. But Mr. Logical, that ain't all we here to talk about. We are here to talk about how Josh Heupel just said, you know what, Kirby? You are the master. Take my balls. Just take my balls. As soon as I saw the kicker at the net, it's so amazing when you watch a game and you just see the kicker preparing, So he was at the net, and it was like I looked into the windows of his soul. And I said, "Ooh, if this comes down to a kick, he gonna miss it." Like, just he just looked, like the definition of like knee bent, arms are heavy. You know what I mean? He just had that look on his face, and I said, "Holy shit, Tennessee is gonna get their heart broken," and they did.
Up 21-7.
His balls.
The pass was working. I mean, in a game like that, when it's a shootout and when you have that kind of talent on a 100-yard field, it just, you can't make mistakes. You got to capitalize. When you're up 21-7, you got to get the ball back, get more points. Like, you have to keep creating distance between you and the other team, because unlike the NFL, college football, 14-point leads can change like that because everybody on the field isn't like 5-star guys. So you go down and get a touchdown, you kick the ball off, the guy returning the ball fumbles, you get the ball right back, the game's tied in a matter of like a minute. That happens so often in college football. So you got to be cognizant of that and get these points when you can. But kudos to Georgia, their quarterback. They says he's 21. He looked 31.
He definitely shut me up because I was one of his biggest critics. And
yeah, he was out there balling.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. Tennessee did have their starting DBs out, but whatever. He still looked good. I'm going to give him the credit, But I did see some things, and I wrote this up to you in our SEC preview, right? I said, this is the first time I feel like I've ever questioned Kirby Smart's secondary, And then on top of that, this is the first time I've questioned Georgia's offensive line. And this game did nothing to answer those questions for me. So
a couple of those touchdowns, the safety didn't move.
Yeah, and what up, Mike? And not to mention, like, they kept falling.
Right past
corners just kept falling. And so all I said to myself, and I'm getting a little ahead of myself, I said to myself, hey, on September 27th, Bama coming between those hedges. Better get it together. And that's how I still feel after this game. Georgia won the game, so you got to give them their credit. And when you look at the schedule down the road, Florida doesn't look, the part right now. They got Texas. And Arch is still not looking. Matter of fact, hold up. Did you hear this thing that Sark said to the media last week about when they asked him about Arch being hurt?
What did he say?
So they go, hey, and I'm going to get back to Georgia, but I just wanted to bring this up because it popped into my head. But they were asking him, is Arch hurt? And, how he's making this grimace, when he throws the ball, he just has this look on his face or whatever the case may be. And Sark goes, do people stare at you when you're going to the bathroom? I'm sure you make all kinds of faces when you're going to the bathroom. I have no idea what that means. But what I took from that was, yeah, Arch got something going on with that shoulder.
The last few years in our great country, people have just been lying and acting as if we all don't have fucking 4K. I have 5 4K TVs in my house. I got laptops and a bunch of iPhones. We can see everything. We can research these things. Oh, that didn't happen. What are you talking about? I got the video on Twitter. I got it on Facebook. I got it on Instagram. Somebody emailed it to me. We can see it. Why are you going up to these podiums and acting like there's not high definition cameras everywhere zoomed in? There's cameras dedicated to the quarterback at every professional game. We can see his face. He's in pain. He went 11 for 25. If he's not unhealthy, then he just sucks. Either he sucks or he's hurt. I'd rather say he's hurt and get somebody else in there. It's fucking Texas. You got to have another quarterback out there.
Yeah,
somewhere.
That was against Texas.
Go get fucking Nico from
A&M.
Yeah.
Well, they got the number 1 quarterback coming in next year, Diabell. So, and I was talking about it yesterday. Like, they need to sit Arch down. And I was listening to Danny Canelo. He told a story about how when Charlie Ward first came in, he had thrown a couple of picks. And Bobby Bowden just said, you know what? Just come over here for a minute. Like, I'm not necessarily benching you, but you need a break. Let Danny go out here, run these couple of drives, settle down, watch it, and I'm going to put you back out there. And I think that we might be reaching a point like that with Arch where it's like, hey, you know what, dude? You don't give us the best chance to win right now. Maybe you just need a half or a quarter to just take it all in, pause, but you're not the best opportunity for us to win right now. But back to Georgia. So Georgia, I'm still not sold. I was tempted to not put Georgia in my playoff this year, but I ended up doing it. But when I look at Georgia, I see a team that doesn't look imposing anymore. It was one of those things. Georgia was one of those teams that when they walked onto the field, you knew it was
off
Georgia.
The bus intimidation, yeah.
Yeah, remember Manti Te'o was talking about how
when Notre Dame
Alabama, they were like, whoa, those dudes are just different. I don't see that with Georgia this year. They have good players like Zachariah Branch. They have KJ Bolden.
Don't guard him man-to-man ever. Just NFL, don't guard him man-to-man.
Yeah, but I'm interested. September 27th.
Safety help.
And oh, by the way, Bama, let's just say Bama gets out of that game. They beat Georgia on the 27th. Hey, y'all got Vandy the week after. So Vandy went into Williams-Brice Stadium. And I know people are going to say Lenore Sellers got hurt. Vandy was already up 21-7 when Lenore Sellers got hurt. Lenore Sellers this season so far is everything that I criticized Jalen Milroe to be. Everything. Except for, he might not be as physically, the stature of Jalen Milroe. But he's been pretty bad this season also. And it was what I feared for South Carolina is that they're the type of school that they just don't react to expectation very well. Like they'll come bite you out the blue every so often, But the moment you start believing in South Carolina, they remind you of who they are, and I believe them.
I had them in the national championship game versus Penn State.
It's not over yet.
But you can't be losing. I mean, you can't lose in conference games. That's how you get pushed down the list. Like that's how you end up, losing your potential spot. Like playing the national championship game. Best case scenario, SEC school. If you got 2 losses, you're probably still square. But if you put this kind of game on tape, like you said, they were down 21-7 before, and they had a good game against Virginia Tech. And it got broken a little bit more wide open when Tech decided to go 0 coverage on Nick Harbor. And he just uses track speed to just run past everyone. But yes, it's tough. But Diego Pavia, like, he has confidence. I mean, he's damn near 30 years old, trying to get
he's going for year 7.
So, I mean, he's literally a man amongst boys. Like, just ride out in the sunset, see how far you can take Vanderbilt. If you are going to be the surprise team, I figured there's going to be a surprise team at SEC. I picked 2. Doesn't look like the 2 that I pick are going to be the ones that kind of carry this mantle, but maybe Vandy could be that team.
Well, speaking of SEC coaches, what SEC coach said, "We're 17-1. Show that team some respect."
Sounds like some Brian Kelly shit.
Brian Kelly.
We talked about it in the pre-meeting, but it does sound like something Brian Kelly would say.
DJ Lagway, right? That class, man, I tell you, that was something that I had posted on TikTok the other day. That class, DJ, like these guys, it was LSU at night. It was tough. 5 interceptions. But Florida definitely played hard to try to, keep Billy Napier around. But Florida is turning right back around, and they're going down to Miami Gardens or Coral Gables or wherever the hell that ain't actually Miami that the Hurricanes play in. 7.5-point underdogs. And there's still a part of me that's like, hey, Florida got a chance. Because they do play hard for Billy Napier, but, it might be over because we keep talking about their schedule. And, Miami looks like one of the better teams. Yes, sir. Say, I appreciate that. Saying like Miami has been looking like one of the better teams in the country, all the way from punking Notre Dame to stopping USF, which got me upset about the top 25 because I see 0-2 Notre Dame in the top 25. USF. Now, this is not me, right? I don't make any rankings. I don't vote in the AP or anything. But when this season started, these people decided that I don't care if Ashton Genty is a Raider now. Boise is still a top 25 team in the nation, even though anyone that actually used their thinking caps knew that Boise is not one of the top 25 best teams in this country. USF smacked them around. They went into the swamp, hit a game-winning field goal against Florida. They go into Miami, they get their pants pulled down. And now all of a sudden they're not ranked. So is Miami good? Or is Florida and Boise suddenly bad, the teams that you believed in, to the point that losing to Miami, who beat Notre Dame, that you left in the top 25 with 2 losses, and now you're going to tell USF to take a hike. You were just waiting to get that American team out of there.
Yeah, that's all it is. I mean, if you're being honest, Notre Dame should have been 26 just because they have 2 losses. Like,
Notre
no matter how
Dame
you slice
40. I don't play this LeBron James shit where you have this losing record and you get to still be called this and that. Like, you don't get to lose your first 2 games of the season, have 0 wins in the W column, and then talk about how you're a top 25 team. Now, I know that Notre Dame lost those 2 games by a combined 4 points to number 4 Miami and number 10 Texas A&M. I know. And you know what? Out of the top 25, off the top of my head, without doing any real serious thinking about it, I probably would pick Notre Dame over 16 of those teams at least to win a one-off game. But that's not what it's about. It's not about what I think you would do. It's about what you showed us that you have done. So get Notre Dame out of my top 25. Hey, I don't do this, Rez. Like, it just happens. Like, I don't plan this stuff. It just comes out. but it's just one of those things where what are we doing? We're putting the apple before the cart. Like, yes, Notre Dame is going to end up ranked at the end of the season because if you look at their schedule, USC might be the only team left on it that should be able to compete with them. So they're going to end up 9-3 at worst. I think they went out, I think they beat USC. I think they went out and go 10-2. But now I'm at a point where I was trying to figure out if Notre Dame lost that game to A&M, would their playoff chances be done? And it's still way too early for that. There's still a lot of chaos to come. So I can't say that Notre Dame is out of the playoff just yet. But they're definitely on that edge. And one more loss to anybody but USC is going to do it. Because, you might have the SEC champion with 3 losses. I don't know if the Big Ten champ will have 3 losses, but the ACC champion might have 3 losses. So Notre Dame is still alive for the time being. But that game against A&M, right? There was a hold missed on that touchdown at the end of the game. Notre Dame fumbled the extra point. So do I want to punish a team for that? No. But you just got to be sensible, be rational, be logical, if you will. No pun intended. But Clemson went down to Bobby Dodd Stadium. And I did not have the courage of my conviction. All off season long, we did our ACC preview. I even shared it on TikTok and Facebook and all the places. And I said, Georgia Tech's going to beat Clemson. And then after that game against Troy last week, Dabo came out talking about the rat poison. Dabo came out talking about, hey, this team reminds me of 2016. He was doing that Clemson against the world thing. And I got caught up in the hype. And I said, hey, you know what? Clemson's going to go into Bobby Dodd and win this game. And Georgia Tech kind of did the same thing that we just talked about the Cowboys did. They got the ball back with about 55 seconds, maybe a little bit more. They drove down the field, run play, run play, run play, run play. And then before you know it, you're looking at a 54 or 55-yard field goal attempt. And, of course, I was sitting there in the moment, and I said, why are you going to settle for something beyond 50? And little did I know, Brent Key said, just watch me work. And here we are. Clemson now sitting at 1-2. Started the season in the top 5. Was supposed to be a national title contender. And they're not done yet either, except they are. Because if you look at the talent, and I know Antonio Williams was out, but Clemson still has the receivers, still working on the run game. The defense still looks legit. But now we're at a point where Clemson can't afford another loss, because that puts them in that 3-loss bucket again for the second straight year where they have to win the ACC to get into the playoff. They get SMU during the regular season. They still got to play Florida State. They still got to play Louisville, who I also picked to beat Clemson in the offseason. So I'm not fully out on Clemson yet. They're kind of in that Kansas City Chiefs status where they've done enough to earn the benefit of the doubt. But I just don't know if I see it, Mr. Logical.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You can't have this many losses early in the year because it's hard to get on a run when you've had, like when you have championship aspirations as a team and you have 2 losses in your first 3 games, then to just turn it on and go on this run when you might be at a talent deficit in certain positions, it's going to be tough. So they might have a good year and maybe Dabo, see what Virginia Tech transfers are looking like, maybe what UCLA transfers are looking like, and he sings a new tune when it comes to the transfer portal because at some point you're gonna have to keep up with the Joneses. You already have the money to do so at Clemson. You have the facilities, you have the cachet. You might have to just kind of buckle down and really say, you know what, I might need to buy some attention from some of these players.
Yeah. So then, of course, taking it from there. 2-5's random college football thoughts real quick. So congratulations. The Akron Zips have finally scored. They went 2 games without scoring. They ended up scoring 28, lost to UAB by 3. Trent Dilfer, that does not help you. Yes, you won, but that does not help you. And oh, by the way, I went and peeked at my Bovada.lv and I saw UAB 39.5-point underdog at Tennessee this weekend. Arkansas, back and forth, pinballing up and down the field with Ole Miss. Ole Miss with a backup quarterback. You know what? Lane Kiffin might just know quarterbacks. But 41-35, Arkansas got Memphis this week. Penn State and Indiana, they're just having a contest to see who can get fatter off the cupcakes. I don't know who approved these schedules, but what I do know is Indiana's got the Illini coming in this weekend. Penn State's got Oregon coming in. And shout out to our guy, Isaac Doobie, play-by-play commentator for the Oregon, student radio station. He will be here on Sports Reports as ordered next Tuesday to preview that game. The backyard brawl, West Virginia and Pitt, might be pound for pound one of the best rivalries in college football. It always comes down to the wire. You always know that couches are in danger of catching fire. Rich Rod is back. He needed that game, because, the last time he was there at West Virginia and they played Pitt, they lost 13-9, and that game kept West Virginia out of the national title game. Purdue and Notre Dame this weekend. I'm interested there. The Palouse, my guys at the Palouse, Mr. Logical, I picked against them. I said, hey, watch out for Idaho, right? They won in overtime by 3. I said, San Diego State going to get them. San Diego State did not get them. So what they decided to do was leave the Palouse, come down to Denton, Texas, and lose 59-10 to North Texas. And I brought up Vandy earlier and how they got Bama coming up.
Yeah.
Vandy, don't take your eye off the prize. 26.5-point favorites against Georgia State this weekend. Don't laugh. They lost to Georgia State last year.
And paid them
Carson Beck. Carson Beck, number 1 in the nation in completion percentage. If you want to be a great quarterback and you want to lead college football in passing yards, you need to go to the greater upper state of New York, because Kyle McCord at Syracuse last year finished the season number 1 in the nation in passing yards. And wouldn't you know it, the guy that was a backup at Notre Dame, Steve Angeli, is the number 1 passer in the nation right now at Syracuse. Shout out to the Delaware Blue Hens. They got their first FBS win this past weekend. But now, Mr. Logical, we got to talk about something that I hate talking about, but we got to talk about it.
Let's hear it.
Deshaun Foster and Brent Pry.
Yep.
They gone. What you think?
They can start over. As far as like the teams, they aren't one of these teams that are expected to really be impactful in the college football space. So getting a head start on getting these guys out of the door, you're going to lose some of your players. So they have like a 30-day window to transfer out since the coach has been fired. I don't know why you'd want to leave now. I figured like you're better off just playing football for the rest of this year. And then if you want to transfer at the end of the season, but now you're going to get opportunities, especially with a new coach. Maybe some guys might get benched, who knows? But when you're,
their 30-day window's open now.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like you can't go and start playing.
Virginia Tech's best defensive player already in the portal.
Yeah, but you can't go like start playing now.
No.
That's what I'm saying. So unless you really don't mind sitting out football for, at this point, 9 games potentially, so a whole year. Like, I don't know. I would hope that you'd want to play football and show what you can do on the football field and continue to grow as a football player versus just leaving now. Like, I mean, it's still September. It's not even the 20th of September yet. So, like, you're going to literally sit and wait until next August before you play another meaningful football game just because your coach got fired. And just that doesn't – if I was advising a player, like, don't do that.
You know what my first thought was? My first thought was, could Nico really transfer again?
Oh, he absolutely will. I imagine he will.
Because I was thinking about that the other day because I was like,
what's USC talking about with their quarterback situation?
He's done after this year. So I was thinking because I was like, who will fill these?
California love.
Who will fill these jobs, right? So I came up with some short lists for both teams real quick, and no, Michael Vick did not make the cut, what I'm saying, for Virginia Tech. But I will say Brian Randall, I'm sure people are familiar with that name. I had to do some research because I was like, where's he at these days? He's the quarterback coach for Mike Tomlin University. Over at William and Mary. So, there you go. But as I was thinking about Virginia Tech, oh yeah, you did tell me that before. If you look at the state of Virginia, they got 3 damn good head coaches at these G5 schools. Jamie Chadwell at Liberty, Bob Chesney at JMU, and then of course Ricky Ronnie over at ODU, who just ran it up and down the field on Virginia Tech. But you can't do that because they went and got Justin Fuentes from Memphis a couple of years ago. Brent Pry was the defensive coordinator for Penn State prior to this. So you need somebody that has actual head coaching experience and probably at the power level. You can't, I don't know if you can you can't sell your fan base on, I'm grabbing another G5 head coach, unless it's John Summerall at Tulane.
Bringing all his G5 players.
Right. You know what I mean? So I broke it down. And the way that I'm looking at this is, first and foremost, I'm looking at the one and only Jimbo Fisher. Saying go on and get you a name, get you some, somebody that's going to bring cachet, get that attention on your program, get some recruits. He has a national title ring. We can argue about whether he's still a good coach or not, or if he ever was, but he's got that national title ring. I started thinking about, if you're going to go the coordinator route, why not grab Buster Faulkner from Georgia Tech? In the ACC already, you play against him, you already know what he's about. He's got that thing humming down there with Haynes King. Then the last name I thought of was Ben Arbuckle. After this year, he went to Oklahoma with John Mateer this year. John Mateer is gone next year. Bring him in. Now, as far as UCLA goes, I did go the coordinator route because the first and last name that I came up with was Will Stein, the offensive coordinator for Oregon. At the very least, you're weakening one of your biggest teams that you got to get over the hump against. Get him out of there. Dan Mullen over at UNLV, former Florida coach. Because UCLA has the money, but I think that they aren't investing because they don't believe. They didn't believe in Deshaun Foster.
I didn't understand that. Excuse me. I didn't understand that hire either. And like I said, I put a lot of credence.
Well, it was last minute. It was last minute because Chip Kelly left after the bowl game, and all the coaches the other vacancies had already been filled, and Chip Kelly just surprisingly left.
Yeah, it felt like, I don't know, other than the fact that he went to UCLA, like why he was the head coach. And if that's the only factor, then you gave him long enough to experiment to realize, like, hey, this isn't the move. You brought in Nico, and then you sent away, Aguilar, and pretty much in the first trade in NCAA history. And he's looking quite accomplished at Tennessee, whereas you are 0-3 and you look, poor. And
not just 0-3, but 2 of those losses are to the Mountain West.
Yeah, your stadium's a legendary stadium and it's empty, so it's not a good look for them.
Yeah, so I hope that at some point Deshaun Foster, because I know he was a running backs coach to include in the NFL, so I hope he sticks with it because I need him at a press conference in about 2031 to remind everybody that the Commanders play in Washington, D.C. and not Washington State. We need those geography lessons that only
that press. It's like, are you camera shy? Are you just public speaking?
Like, who knows that Charlotte is in North Carolina and not South Carolina? Who knows that? Deshaun Foster does.
It was a very strange. It just kind of like let me know, like, I don't know how good of a recruiter you're going to be if you can't speak to the locale of your university. So yeah, it was tough. It was a tough look for him.
But yeah, so I don't know. Actually, let me ask you this before we move on. if you were a head coach out there or a coaching candidate out there, and these two schools approached you, which one would you take?
Do I have to factor in taxes?
You factor in whatever you need to factor.
I say Virginia Tech just because I think the program has a little bit more, and the people around the program, the fans, the fan base, I think they're a little bit more invested. So at a minimum, if you put a decent team out there, you'll get a full stadium. You'll get on ESPN. And as far as football, if you can recruit Virginia, Maryland, North Carolina, if you can recruit that area, you should get some pretty top tier talent. California has really good talent, but so many of the California schools are just not really up to par. Like, Stanford's been terrible recently. Cal's been pretty bad. UCLA's been bad. USC hasn't been really good. So I think a lot of their talent is leaving the state. Like, not a lot of guys are going to, like, if you could get like a Fab Five kind of thing from like modern day St. John Bosco, all these top flight high school programs, if they're like, yo, if like 8 guys like, yo, I'm going to USC, and you can get a quick rebuild, that's one thing. But that hasn't happened. Even with Lincoln Riley down at USC, he didn't get an overwhelming pool of the 4 and 5 stars out of the state of California. They're going all over the place. So I think Virginia Tech, the fan base, the location, I just believe that's a better landing spot than UCLA.
And just think, 2 years ago, UCLA had Dante Moore. And now he's over at Oregon now. But I think the answer might be UCLA, just from the standpoint of unpredictability, because we keep talking about how the ACC is going to fall apart. And I don't know what that future leaves for Virginia Tech. Are they going to get into the SEC? I don't think they're going to get into the Big Ten. So,
I see the name.
What do they bring?
Itself. Just the name.
Like, UVA is probably more valuable than them at this point.
Well, Virginia Tech has been a better football program than UVA over the last 20 years.
They have.
I think academically they bring a lot because it's Virginia Tech is a very difficult school to get into, same as UVA. So I think just more than just the football. I think
Virginia has the basketball program. I think that Virginia Tech can be argued that they're a one-hit wonder or a one-coach wonder, if you will.
Yeah,
because Frank, what were they before Frank Beamer showed up? You know what I mean?
It's not like the SEC is like really swirling with, like, they have Vanderbilt and Kentucky, so it's not like Virginia Tech being added to the SEC is like, it's this massive drop off.
I mean, there is a possibility that Virginia could end up in the Big Ten and Virginia Tech end up in the SEC, but I don't think it's a slam dunk. You know what I mean? So
I just don't think they're going to be out
already there.
I don't think they're going to just be out there like, a man with no, man on an island. I think someone is going to want, even if it's just, if conference was the American Conference or whatever, like somebody is going to want to pull them in. But I believe the Big Ten, the SEC would, I think they would welcome that just because.
I was out here trying to have a serious conversation, and you just came out here and tried to shit on Boston College for no reason. But of course,
I think the opportunity would come.
So on Saturday night, we had what was supposed to be the fight of the century, what was supposed to be the fight of a generation at least. It wasn't. Boxing has let us down again. The floor is yours, Mr. Logical.
Yeah, so I had a conversation with a good friend of mine, Holler Q. He's a bit of a boxing purist. I admit that growing up, yeah, he's like, he likes to hide. He doesn't come out. Ooh. He talks to me, but he won't watch the show. You know how friends are. So we were talking about, like I said, I grew up in, 80s and 90s. I think the 90s, as far as like my generation, like that was the height of my boxing love. Pernell Whitaker, Middle Taylor, Cesar Chavez, Roy Jones Jr., Mike Tyson, Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, Riddick Bowe. I mean, the list goes on and on. I think George Foreman came back in that time frame. So we were getting fights all the time.
Tua.
That too. So we had a lot going on. Pernell Whitaker, shout out to Virginia. And it seemed like these guys were always fighting trilogies, even in the 80s. Sugar Ray Leonard, Hagler, like these guys were just setting up like, listen, you and I are in the same kind of space. You have a belt from the WBA. I got one from the WBO. The IBF one is vacant. Let's fight it out. Oh, you beat me? Matter of fact, let's rematch. Oh, I beat you. Oh, let's do it again a third time. It felt like that was kind of built in after the first fight. So as soon as the first fight was announced, a lot of times you just knew it's going to be a rematch no matter what. So our conversation was like, all right, we got 4 big popular names. I don't know what their rankings are, the top boxing, whatever the case may be. But you got Haney, Shakur Stevenson, Tank, Ryan Garcia. Now, they've been active on social media, and they've had a couple of fights, but Shakur fights, he seems to run a lot, and he boxes his style. They say style makes fights. But when you guys are the 4 most popular names that people can kind of like reach to, we should have gotten more fights out of that. We only got 2 fights out of that, and it's Ryan Garcia fighting both guys, and each fight was kind of like weird because we talk about Tank only wanting to fight at his standard, and then Garcia not making weight for the Haney, so it didn't like he was taking it serious, and then he wins the fight, and then Haney goes to sue because he had a baby, a PED, and he wants to take the
Shout
loss
out to Drake.
It's like, yo, just fight. Like, just fight again. Like, just run the rematch. Like, we wanted Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder for years and never got it. Just run the fight back. So Canelo and Bud, like, I think Bud, like, dismantles him. I don't know. One score was 115, 113. I'm like, I don't know how they got to that. Like, that's something boxing really needs to address because that's a problem. Because I think that's why people lean away from it. It's like, we're not getting true, authentic boxing matchups. We're getting like one guy is going to draw in a lot of money, and then you're going to fight that guy because he can bring in a lot of money. It wasn't like, hey, we're going to get a great fight. And Bud dominated the whole fight. It was clear that one guy was better than the other guy. But Canelo, some reports said he got up like 150 million, and Bud got between somewhere like 10 and 40 million. So it just feels like they're all following the Jake Paul model of like just picking these fights where I'm the star and you're just jumping in with me. And I feel like that's why they got Dana White on board, because the UFC has the model to where it's like, listen, oh, y'all got beef. You said something on Twitter. You said something on Instagram. You went on Facebook Live. Now y'all going to fight in Rio de Janeiro, in 8 weeks. And the fight happens. So with boxing, every single time we get this fight, now what's our next big fight? We're waiting for another Canelo fight. He just lost his last one. Most people felt like he lost probably like 9 out of the 12 rounds, 8 out of 12, realistically. So now we're waiting on our next big fight, and it's going to be Canelo and insert name. Like, how does that do Bud any service when he dominated the fight, but yet the next big fight we're going to get is going to be Canelo and somebody, and the Saudis guys are going to give him $175 million.
So as the great LA Knight would say, let me talk to you. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about Saul real quick. So Saul, is a great boxer. He might be skill-wise one of the best boxers we've ever seen. Saul usually has the judges in his pocket. So even as we went to the decision, I was a little nervous. Like that 115, 113, I was just like, but so Saul, when I first saw Saul pop on the scene, we watched him fight Floyd Mayweather. And there were people trying to tell us that he won that fight. And there was no way in hell he was even close in that fight. So then he fought Lara a couple of fights later. I thought Lara won, and that's when I learned Canelo is the face of boxing, as they cheated on the cards to me. I thought that Lara won that fight pretty easily, but they gave it to him. So fast forward a little bit. Now he's beating up on your Amir Khans. And I'm looking at this guy, Saul, and on a day-to-day basis, I'm like, this dude is 190, 195 pounds. Like Amir Khan, maybe if I threw a bucket of paint on him, he'd be 145. And Canelo's fighting this dude and knocking him out, and people are telling me how great he is and all this and all that. And I'm like, hey, weight classes exist for a reason.
Yeah, he walked to the ring like 185, 180, 185. Amir Khan believes Canelo is probably closer to 180, 185 on fight night.
Right.
If they're 147 bout.
So he's fought 5 fights at least 5 that have been catch weights, but it's always his advantage because he's the naturally bigger guy. So even if he cuts 15 pounds, the person that he's fighting is coming up in weight, so they're losing a lot of the speed or whatever edge they may think they have. So I've been waiting for Saul to fight Benavidez. Benavidez has been calling him out. He lost Canelo lost the B-ball when he tried to go that route. So we never got that, but we got a Jamel Charlo fight that we didn't ask for, where Charlo didn't even want to let his hands go.
Didn't do anything. Didn't do anything. Didn't even sweat. He went straight to the club.
Right.
He didn't have a scratch on him. Nothing. Just literally danced for 36 minutes. It's he was a fucking king of diamonds.
It's wild.
And
so then
that was it.
So then Saul, fought Gennady Golovkin, also known as Triple G. First fight they called a draw. I thought Triple G won that fight. Second fight, from about rounds 9 to 11, Canelo was on Dream Street. You know what I mean? But, they gave Canelo that fight. And then by the time they fought the third time, it was Floyd Mayweather style where Triple G had no business being in the ring. So I say all that to say that I owe Floyd Mayweather a little bit of an apology because I was talking about how he always tried to stack the odds. He fought certain guys out of their prime, your Mosleys, your De La Hoya, so on and so forth. But it could have just been a timing thing. It could have been them ducking him from the standpoint of you don't have the name. And that's the problem. You don't have the name to meet me. And it's real college football in that way because you have to beg your Floridas to play UCF and places like that because if I lose to them, I'm a laughing stock. If I win, I don't get any credit. And I think that's where boxing has entered.
And that was my argument to Q. I was like, because we talked about the Errol Spence Bud Crawford match. And he was like, man, he had this happen, he had the car crash, he had that. I'm like, yeah, all that was before the fight. All that happened before he fought Bud, and the expectation was still people thought he was going to beat Bud. So he's like, yeah, man, it's psychological. I'm like, I get that. I get that boxing for a long time takes a long time.
And he hasn't fought since.
But he hasn't fought since. I don't know if he's ever going to fight again. But these guys who are just talking to each other on Twitter and hanging out and going on different YouTubers live streams talking and taking shots and doing all this random stuff. It's like, are y'all going to fight? If not, I don't want to be dismissive, but it's like, if you're not going to box, then what else are you bringing me entertainment wise if you're not going to box? Like
right.
if you're just going to just talk shit, like if your dad is going to talk shit to another boxer or another trainer, it's like, are you going to keep showing me this old video of a sparring session from I don't know what year it was, or you can keep talking about your amateur record? You can make believers out of everybody right now by just saying like, yo, I want to fight Halloween night or whatever Saturday night around Halloween. I want to take over this area. Like you can pick one of the 4 or 5 cities on the planet where you can make a great fight. Hell, you could do it in London. You could do it in Saudi Arabia. They waited a little you wait a little long so you can't, like the Times Square fight that they had. That was a dope idea because me and you were talking about it. I thought it was Madison Square Garden when it said Times Square. They fought outside of Times Square. Like, that is a dope idea. They should have put on a show, and they didn't. And it's like, come on, like what are we doing here? And you can't just lean and hope that Mayweather because Mayweather can still talk and he's still functioning. Some of these older boxers are like, eyes are swollen. They don't have like the appeal, the cachet. They kind of drive the narrative.
He went from beefing with Roy Jones to fighting Mike Tyson now. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
so it's like it's like a clown. It's like a very expensive clown show,
and then
and
Tank
it's weird.
decided
And I don't
like,
want to dismiss this guy's talent, but it's like it's weird that you're a boxer and that's how you make your money, and you have these Saudi and Turkey fights or whatever this money is crazy money, and you're in your prime. You're fighting another guy in his prime. It's like negotiate. I was like, yeah, why? How come they want to do 50-50 deals? He was like, it's all ego and everything. I'm like, they don't deserve it. We're gonna split this 100 million. The Saudi guys gonna give us
Tank
100 million.
is
Let's
about
split
to
it.
go out here and fight a 200-pound YouTuber. You know what I mean? And if Jake Paul knock him on his ass,
If he connects, he will.
All Baltimore side, because I love Baltimore and I love Tank. All Baltimore side, I'm gonna laugh my ass off and call you stupid. And so even when you look at it and peel it back a little further, when you get back to the Canelo Bud fight, Saul has just decided I'm not jabbing anymore. So like his whole thing was, I'm going to figure out your timing. And as I was watching the fight, shout out to Radical Jack. I was at his crib watching the fight, and it was one of those things, right? It was like round 3, and people were just they were just up in arms, like, what are these dudes doing? Like, why are they not fighting? And I was like, well, Bud is a notorious slow starter. You know what I mean? That is trying to pick apart your movements and everything. Canelo is the type of dude that's trying to get down your rhythm. So he does a lot of counter punching, but spends those first 3 or 4 rounds just trying to figure out, okay, when he goes left, he's going to do this and so on and so forth. So he doesn't jab anymore because he's watching you. So Bud was doing all these, punches. He's up against the ropes. And a lot of times Canelo wasn't even bombing on him when he was against the ropes. So round 5, he picked it up a little bit, got tagged a couple of times, then he went back again. And then I said, all right, Mike Tyson rules, right? Because back in the day when you fought Mike Tyson, if you could make it, and this is just me making up a number, if you could make it to round 4 with Mike Tyson, your chances to win the fight goes up 70%. You know what I mean? So when he got Canelo to round 8, I said around round 9, we might see Canelo shut it down. You know what I mean? Because he doesn't have the stamina. He's always had shitty stamina. And I said, as long as Bud continues to move, there's no way in hell Canelo wins this fight. Now, I've watched boxing. I would never, ever refer to myself as a boxing expert. Never as a boxing aficionado or anyone who should be any kind of authority on the sport of boxing.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? But if I know that, as you always say, if I know that, Bud knew that. So Bud was able to just pick spots of activity. Okay, but if you listen to Max Kellerman, you thought Canelo was whooping his ass the whole time.
Shit, Teddy Atlas was singing Bud's praises like, that's the sweet science. That's the sweet science of boxing. And it's like, nah, not really.
It's like they're not doing nothing.
It was one dude that was like lazily looking to try to land a big shot on a guy who's quick and a big puncher. So it wasn't like they say styles make fights. Well, fights make, like, you got to fight too. Like, I want you guys to mix it up. I don't want anybody going home and, injured. But it's like, if this person is jabbing you and sliding around the whole fight, jab, hook, slide, jab, like, and that's all they're doing is like, you got to figure out a way to combat that. You can't just keep walking into these jabs and then he slides out and you throw your overhand right and he slips it. Like, that's all it seemed like that was happening. It was like,
well, I think
what's going on here?
Well, Saul knows that he has that weight advantage. So I think a lot of times he goes into these fights saying, this person can't hurt me. And you know what I mean? And I think that Bud initially looked a little, I don't want to call it nervous, but the first round or 2, it felt like Bud was like, what is he going to hit me with? Let me be prepared for it. And then once he got hit, it was like, oh, he ain't as strong as I thought he was. Yeah. So from that point on, once Bud made that determination that Saul couldn't hurt him, that was the end of the fight.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It felt like a foregone conclusion, like every round that passed. Like I never felt as if Canelo got the upper hand. He was an advantage, or at any point, like was he in control of any real aspect of the fight?
I
Like
think
I never like
one round. There was one round that I felt Canelo significantly won. The other two that I gave him were like very narrow, but that one round, like I think it was maybe round 7. That round 7 or 8, he definitely took control of the fight, and I said, okay, maybe we got something here. But then Bud caught him with that shot that everybody keeps posting.
Yeah.
It was like he turned his head and then he was just like, damn fool. Like, you know, like, we just playing.
And it didn't even look flush. It just, I don't know, like listen, I know it's slow motion and I've never been in a professional boxing environment, so it might have hurt like a motherfucker, but it just, like I said, it just never felt like there was, you know, you watch a boxing match and you see like Haney Garcia. I thought that was a great fight. I thought those guys battled. I thought Haney got out of his gourd and was like, listen, you know the Ryan Garcia left hook is coming. He packed it. He didn't check it. He brought it on the plane with him. That hook was coming with him no matter what, and you stood there, right hand down, letting him bang you in the side of the head with the left hook. And he does it to everybody. So even with that, like with the Haney mistakes, and then you know Ryan Garcia kind of capitalized on, I like the back and forth of the fight. This I didn't like the flow of the fight. I felt like it was like one guy chasing another guy, and that guy knew that the guy couldn't catch him. But I'm gonna stand here just because I got to make my points. I got to make it matter, and then slide out. It just felt like a very long cat and mouse game in a squared circle.
And that's why, you know, like I brought up the
maybe
jab.
maybe that's a good tactician. Maybe that's like if you're a trainer,
smart,
that's what
right?
you
I mean,
want.
the object of the game is to me hit you and I don't get hit. So I mean, it's a smart strategy. That's what we used to get them, you know, people get on Floyd about, like get in there and mix it up a little bit more. But if I don't have to, why should I?
Yeah, but when Floyd was getting in there, he was mixing up. He just was not getting hit. He was still making he still was bodying guys. He still was taking. He just was able to like slip. It wasn't like he just jab ran. He just didn't get hit back, so it looked like the fight was worse than it was. He just really kind of handled the ring. He just wasn't getting hit back.
I wish we could see a Crawford Floyd fight.
I think that would be. I don't know. I don't know how that would go, because, like I said, the only time I've ever seen Floyd get hit hard was the Mosley, when Mosley caught him, I think with like a left hand, like maybe a left hand, something like that. And he kind of rocked him
once.
But like this is when he held on to Mosley, and it was like he was wobbly for a while. Like he held on for the rest of that round, and Mosley was going at it, but you know his defense was still, you know, he resorted back to his defense. But I think that's the only time
my style is impeccable. My defense is impregnable.
Yeah, so yeah, but like I said, Floyd Mayweather, he set the model for how to get the big money, but I think the other boxers don't match his level of charisma, and boxing still needs them. And I think boxing's operating like they need these gimmick fights. And I just wish they would just make the good fights.
I wish Danny Garcia was a better boxer. And I wish Danny Garcia was a better boxer. Like I grew an affinity towards him. And then his dad, Angel, is like nuts. I forgot who he was fighting. I don't know if it was Sean.
I'll eat my own head.
Yeah, he was about chopping his own head off and all this kind of stuff.
He's like, I'll eat my own head. They were like, what? I mean, and then Danny Garcia beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, but Danny Garcia was my guy. I had such big hopes for him, but it just wasn't to be.
I love Miguel Cotto. I like Cotto. I used to like Cotto.
Was cheating.
But no, before he got cheated with the old boy, was it?
Well, no, that was Margarito that was cheating.
Margarito was cheating.
Yeah, that was Margarito with the wax and all that. Yeah,
the plaster and stuff inside of his glove.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't want a dangerous fight. I don't want a guy to go out there and like harm himself. I just want guys who are in the same space, kind of searching for the next thing. Like, I don't want boxing matches where I'm definitively the headliner just because I'm a little bit more popular and I want you to feel suppressed. Like, I want you to walk into the ring under my shadow. I think Garcia Yeah, I think
because
they're
of the
on
styles,
playing
just because of
fields.
the difference of styles. I want that.
And I
fight.
think, but I think Tank would treat that negotiation like it's 65-35.
Right.
So if it's 100 million, and
I do
feel
think that
as
Tank lost the roach too.
I feel like those guys negotiate that way because it's like if they always say sign the contract, and it's like, so you mean to tell me you already signed it, or you sent them over a bogus ass contract where the pay is 68-32, and we're gonna do it in my hometown with my refs, and only my friends can come watch the fight. Like, I mean, what's in the contract that these guys aren't signing? Like, why all these negotiations so tumultuous to the point where you guys can't settle, like, I don't even call it a beef, but just settle this business plan and make a business move, considering every month that goes by, you're getting closer and closer to your boxing career ending. Especially if you get rusty. If you don't, like, one was Tank or Haney Garcia, or like Tank Roach, like both over a year ago, right?
Right.
At least. So it's like,
at least.
You know, I think the Times Square fight was last summer. So like these guys are just kind of letting these opportunities go by. It's like one of you has to step up and like, yo, Floyd is retired. I'm gonna be next, but I'm gonna be next by beating people, not I'm gonna be next by trying to follow Floyd Mayweather's outside the ring boxing model. Like, you don't have that cachet yet. You think you do, but you don't. So just follow the inside the ring. The shit he was doing between fights 22 and 32. Do that. 32 to like 50. That's when he was doing all the other stuff. But like probably like fights 20 to 35, something like that, he was just fighting guys.
Right.
Yeah, he was making it his advantage. He was fighting every year on Cinco de Mayo. Like, he was making it to where it's like there was an expectation that Floyd was going to do something every May, and we were waiting on it. So guys were lining up to be that opponent. And it just was like, okay, boom, I'm doing this in Vegas, Cinco de Mayo, coming out with the Mex. I mean, like, it just he had real star power. And I think these guys want to emulate that. But it's like, you also got to put in that other work too. You got to fight the Ricky Hattons. You got to fight De La Hoya. You got to fight Trinidad. You got to fight Mosley. You got to fight Canelo. Even though like you're way older and he was younger.
Oh, don't forget about my guy Mayorga with the cigarettes.
Oh yeah, you got to fight so you got to fight fight all these guys, and he fought him twice. Yeah, and he was giving Floyd work, but once again, it's like he wasn't beating the champ.
Right.
But you got to put that work in, and I think these guys just figured out with the social media buzz and the following is like, oh, I cut out that part. Like, nah, you still got to get in the ring.
Right. And then while we're talking about boxing, rest in peace, Ricky Hatton, by the way. So,
rest in peace.
But yeah, so ladies and gentlemen and ladies, he is the one and only world renowned, world famous, cool, calm, and collected. Born in Texas, raised in VA, representing everything New Jerusalem. He wants you to know that New Jersey is so inspirational. Even if you go back to the yesteryears, they had Thomas Edison out there creating the light bulb. New Jersey is in the building, except for, I guess, like he's out there getting his 2 yards of carry somewhere. I am down here in the Alamo. I do believe in Joe Hendry. I am your unorthodox statistician. I go by the name of 25. Thank you for joining us. We will be back on Friday. And you know what that means? Picks, and more picks. And then we'll be back at you. So like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things. Do all the good things, preferably with a liquid death. I finished mine already. But we love y'all so much. Thank you for your time and your support.
Hey! Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the